I mean, it wasn't even hit by a building. 47-story structure, has 2 small fires in it. A modern steel building had never collapsed from fire. The Madrid fire last year, it burned for 2 days with 150, something foot wide hot flames, and nothing collapsed there. What happened with Building 7, in your opinion?
A little curious, isn't it? It's a little bit curious. It just seems odd that an event, something that we all witnessed, because September 11th wasn't the Zapruder film, it was the Zapruder Film Festival, okay? And I think that what was the great Hoover quote about the bigger the lie, the easier it is to pass over on people?
Yes.
I mangled it. I'm paraphrasing.
Well, no, Hitler had a similar one about the bigger the lie, the more they'll buy it.
Sure. There you go. There you go. Let me just throw out a quote, just because, we're 20 minutes into this, and I'm sure I'm being demonized across the nation by, all of the people that do that sort of thing.
But people see through the propaganda organs now like they never have before.
Well, good. Good, finally. There's a couple of quotes here. The first is, "It is unpatriotic not to tell the truth, whether about the president or anyone else." The second quote from this same gentleman is that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, well, I mean, that's what the Founding Fathers said. It's our job to be watchdogs. The Declaration of Independence clearly states that in our seminal founding document.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've been coerced away from these founding principles.
We've been told you're either with us or you're with the terrorists, and we've been told never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning 9/11. Bush said that at the UN.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That would direct the blame away from those responsible, blah, blah, blah. Back to Building 7, yeah. You pointed out in one of your documentaries that in a classic controlled demolition that they create what's first called a crease. Is that correct? Or a wrinkle?
Crease, wrinkle, crimp, all those are used, yes. They blow the central column.
Right, and the term pull is about pulling the outer walls toward the center of the building, correct?
Yes.
So you minimize the damage, and that way you bring a building down on its own footprint. Correct?
And many controlled demolition experts said they've never seen a prettier job than Building 7.
Yeah, gosh. And there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but scientifically he broke down that the building actually fell faster than the speed of gravity because of the explosive vacuum that was created.
Well, a lot of different physicists, physics professor at BYU, Stephen Jones, has done that. Underwriting Laboratories, Kevin Ryan, who was there.
That guy got fired, right?
Yes, he said we did our own test, and it's impossible. Steel doesn't melt until thousands of degrees. Around 3,000 it weakens, and jet fuel burns at 1,200 to 1,400. It's impossible.
Well, that's 1,200 at optimum conditions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you've got Silverstein, the leaseholder, the owner of 7 as well as the rest of the complex, right? On tape, on the record, saying, we've had such a terrible loss of life that day, and I made the decision that they should go ahead and pull it.
And we gave the order and watched the building come down.
Yeah. Well, pull is that's his coming to the demo world as action and cut to the movie world.
Here is Larry Silverstein, the owner, who took out $7 billion of insurance on the 2 towers, and he's also now bought the Sears Tower and taken out a bunch of insurance. And Governor Pataki just called him the lowest of the low in the newspaper because he's holding out for $1 billion more now. Interesting fellow, made out quite well, and here is his statement from America Rebuilds.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
They made the decision to pull. They made the decision. and this building with 2 small fires implodes perfectly, and then there's video from every angle of the squibs, or the blast points, where the plastic explosives are detonating, and you see the ejection ports, you see the blast points, just like when you watch a Las Vegas demolition. They just had a demolition over the weekend in Fort Worth. We have video and photos of that up on Infowars.com. Fell just like 7. The blast, the squibs, then the crimp in the middle, the top of the building imploding downwards, and then it falls in on itself. Going back to our guest, Mr. Sheen, that is the clip you mentioned with Mr. Silverstein.
Yes, it is, yeah. Let me just play devil's advocate for a second, right? Again, I don't claim to be an expert about structural integrity. I don't claim to be an expert about demolitions. Could they have rigged that building during the day when they decided that the fire was out of hand, even though it was only in a couple of floors?
No way. They could have blown the whole thing to bits with just a massive explosives down low, but they couldn't engage in precision demolitions. It would take weeks.
Okay, good. Good to know. That's what I think. But, again, I'm just throwing stuff out that somebody might present as a viable argument.
Well, the engineers that have looked at it who aren't on government payroll have said just what you're saying. The heads of mining colleges, the heads of physics departments, the head individual who checked into it from Underwriter Laboratories, they're saying what you're saying. But the problem is they tried to hire Henry Kissinger, and then they hired Keene, all Bush business partners, to run the 9/11 Whitewash Commission. What did you think of the commission?
Not much, because it didn't really answer a lot of the hard questions, you know. Let me ask you, though, how long did it take to start an investigation after, I don't know, Pearl Harbor?
About a day.
Okay. The Titanic?
It started that day.
JFK?
Started that day.
Yeah. 9/11?
Started about a year later.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the investigation was ordered to be limited in its scope?
Well, they had armed guards over every piece of steel and put GPS equipment on each piece, and if a guy pulled over to get a hamburger for 10 minutes, he'd be fired and then criminally charged. That's what they actually did, and they shipped it to China under guard.
Yeah, well, that bothers me, because Giuliani, as a former prosecutor, knows the value of evidence preservation and crime scene preservation. Now, I understand that they were on the clock, and they were still looking for victims, and they were still looking for bodies, and they were still hoping beyond hope that there were survivors, but
not a week into it, not a month into it.
No, I know. So the thing that I can't get my mind off of is that if there's a problem with Building 7, there's a problem with the whole thing.
Well, you're right. What about firefighters on record? Major newspapers say they found 3 of the voice recorders, data recorders, and then the FBI said don't tell anybody about this and shipped them off.
Yeah, and we've never had access to that data, have we?
No.
Yeah, just the fact that the entire event is so shrouded in secrecy.
They ordered the FAA to destroy the tapes as well, the tapes they recorded at the towers.
Yeah. I know. Again, I'm not coming on your show to say I know who did it, I know how they did it, and I know why they did it. I'm just coming on to talk about what we've been told as a public, and again, a lot of it's pretty silly, for lack of a better term.
Something's rotten in the state of Denmark. We know there hasn't been a real investigation. In fact, there's been a cover-up, and when you normally see a cover-up going on, that's pretty suspicious. Yeah,
absolutely. Let me ask you this, though. Everybody's now familiar with the famous Andrew Card Bush ear whisper
yes.
at the elementary school, and that whole incident is problematic to me because, as we talked about yesterday, it was broadcast 3 days in advance, his schedule, correct? The president's schedule?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So conservatively,